has here on her notes, and she has an existing CMU wall retaining wall. So that kind of falls into our category of existing conditions, and we do note those on a legend. So I'm going to go to my text layer, and I'm just going to go over to the side and start making a legend. So we have text. That there. And I'm going to start small, but probably scale this up. So this would be construction legend. And we have materials, our symbol, material, quantity, and detail. So even if we don't get to details, this is generally what you would want to have on your plans. And close that, so it got really tiny. But our first material would be, let's just do it as a sub heading here, so existing. And then the symbol will come from the plan. So we have a 30-inch high CMU block retaining wall with stucco finish. I'm going to need to wrap this a little bit. It's probably going to be way too big for legend. Do some tabs and that in there. And because it's existing, we don't really need to have a detail. Okay, so anything that's existing that's going to remain, you want to go ahead and show that in here. Existing fencing. So anything that you're going to stick with and have in the next that will stay should probably be listed here. And then proposed. So that means it's not there yet, but you're planning to do it. And so we're going to do a brick pathway. So we have a brick pathway, and then we want to maybe describe that a little better. So maybe not, let's see. I don't want it to be thick. So give it a dimension 8 by 4 or 4 by 2 by 8. White washed brick over, because it's not quite deep enough, over concrete base. So that's just an option. You could do papers, you could do other things that would make sense. Concrete, if you're going to do concrete, let's see. Oops. So natural gray concrete with sandblast finish, medium, or do like an aggregate. So we do like a medium aggregate. So the quantities here would be in square feet. And just leave that for now until get an actual number in detail 1, oops, and detail 2. So just starting to call out what everything is, then I can make a little rectangle and show the a little example of the material hatch pattern. So hatch, and inherit the properties of this, and show that in there. And then again, hatch the natural gray and match properties, and you have that. So now that takes away the need to necessarily call out all of these things. You still can, but if you don't necessarily have to anymore. So I'm just going to move them over. The next thing that you want to do is have some dimensions on this. So let's see if we have our dimension style set up. Looks like we do, but it looks like it's the smaller one. So I'm going to go to the one that is set to scale for a plan. We have 1/8 of an inch and about 48, so that's good. So that means our scale is a 1/4 inch scale. And then I want to show some dimensions on here. Pull them off of the plan. And In this case, the walkway isn't necessarily located off the corner of the existing wall. It should be equal from the center of the front door. So a way that you can show that is we have our front door. So we would do dim, do linear or horizontal. So you can just say equal or EQ, which means they're equally spaced on either side of the front door. So we have another dimension here to here. And bring that up. You can edit it once you've created it. So just double click on that and EQ. And you can probably see that now that we have some things going on, it's getting a little harder to read portions of the text. So you might need to move things around. So something to look at, how to fit all of the information where you want to see it on the plan. Because this is an existing porch, you don't really need to dimension this way, but you do want to call out the steps. So you go to this and pull off to the side, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, so 4 6-inch steps. Any area that's going to be planting should have just some simple text of PA inside the planting area. So start your text there. 6 inches is probably good, and P period A period, and then copy that all around. So you're designating your areas that will be planted. Okay. Now, what you can do in the planting areas, and it depends on if you feel like it's obvious or not, is you can add a hatch to the planting area, or you can leave it plain without a hatch and just the text in there. You're going to want to dimension anything that is kind of laid out. So we have the 3 foot there. Because this aligns and aligns, you don't necessarily need to show anything, but that they're aligning with one another. And kind of just keep going from there and detailing everything you can to the best of your ability, and coming up with more specific information about each of the items and the materials that you want to use on the plan. So do that. And there's a lot of standard details, particularly for concrete work or brick work. You can look at the manufacturer and see what kind of details they have. If you're interested in finding out more of different types of patterns, you can just Google different paving materials for exterior use, different stones, and they'll just give you, some more ideas of things that you can start with. So because that's a driveway extension, you probably add a dimension there. And then if it's going to refer to a specific a detail that you might have, we go ahead. So let's say this pot is going to be a detail. So we have our call out. And rather than continuing with that, I'm going to draw a circle. And do a line across the center. I like it, but this is fine for this because it's construction documents and the straight lines are good. So just depends. I like to do this line on conceptual plan.
Do you have something portable like a propane fire pit?
Yes.
That would be on the construction drawings?
I do. I put them on there. It's not necessarily going to be, it's not something that, I guess it depends on if the contractor is responsible for it or not. Did they bid the furniture as well? Usually not. But if they did, then you want to include it on there.
So. Some cases you need the furniture on there, sometimes you don't.
Right. Usually you don't. So usually you're just showing what the contractor is going to be building. And so are they building the furniture? If so, then that should be on there. If it's like a built-in seawall or something to do with the deck, that would be important. But if you're not having them actually construct anything, they're just buying it from the store and setting it on top, that's different. And a lot of times,
like they're laying a gas line for your fire pit?
Okay, so if it's a propane fire pit, they shouldn't be laying gas line for it. So that wouldn't be necessary. But if it's a real fire pit, yes, you have to.
So back to it being a portable propane fire pit, do you put that on the construction plan?
I would note it, and then I might do a little legend of site furnishings, and that's another thing that's pretty common, is that you would have a legend where you have your materials. You can do the site furnishings legend right below it, and that's really very nice and helpful. You can include the quantity, the size, the manufacturer of what you are calling out, so they can find it. Kind of helpful.
I was kind of struggling with that plant legend, mostly the texting of it.
Okay.
And so I'm noticing here that you're using in-text and MT-edit. So how's that different from text and de-text?
Okay, so M-text is the text that wraps into paragraphs, and D-text is a single line. So the M-text is, let's see, so T, And so that creates your box. And you get this new change legend up at the top where you can modify whatever you want as you're working on the text. And it continues.
When you created that box, what command did you use?
T.
T?
Yeah, just T for text. But if you do D text, that means you want single line text. So you would just start and look at the bottom of the screen. It asks for the height, whereas it was at the top on the other command. And hit enter for the height, rotation angle. You could choose a different rotation angle, which sometimes is helpful. DT, either one will work. T is text, M text. Yeah. So you almost have to multiple line, but D text is with the D on top. Is actually less common.
And in order to modify a single line text, you program it in the little drop down, right?
So you can modify it from the change properties menu, which is certainly possible. So let's say I did some text here. And yeah, because you click on it, you don't see anything change up here where you can make any modifications to it. So you can type in CH for change properties, and that gives you this menu over on the left. And if you want to, you can make changes to it from here. So let's say I want to make it 12 inches tall. I just made it taller. I want to make it a different layer. So I put it on a different layer. You can, let's see, the width factor sometimes is helpful, so you can fit more things in. So it makes it a little bit more narrow spacing. So lots of different things that you can do with that just from this change properties menu. And this is a great menu for pretty much any object in your drawing. You can see kind of the fundamentals of it and what you can change.
But if you wanted to change the single line text properties without hitting change properties, couldn't you go to the annotation drop down under the large one, go to home? If you go to home tab,
okay,
and then under dimension, so then bottom of that, there's that, and then go to the top left, that A with brush, and then you can select, you can set, like, everything is set in the current, right? Like the type of font.
Exactly. So these are your text layers. So you create, or text styles. So you create different named text styles, and one would be for your title block, one would be for callouts on the page, one would be for bodies of text on the page, because they're different sizes. And you can create those here and then use them as you're working on them.
Right, but whatever you choose there is going to be current up on single line text, right?
Correct. So let's say we'll make this one current, and then do dtext. Hopefully I'm right. So you can see at the bottom of the screen, it defaults to 1/2 inch tall. So that's the size that either it was last used or it was set to be. But you can change it if you want to. So that's going to be really tiny on this one. So I'm just going to do 12 so you can see it.
But that would be a way to change it, to change single line text.
Yes.
It seems very long and arduous, but I would rather know I can do that than not.
Yeah, you can do, well, if you're initiating the text, that's the way to do it. So you want to set the style, do the objects, and move on. But sometimes you don't do that. Sometimes you've already created a lot of text and you don't want to go retype. So that's where you click on it and you can do the change properties. So
when you created that box, you typed in text first and then created the box?
Yeah, I typed in T for text. So the shortcut keys. If this were what I was working on here, I could change the style from this menu.
Was that where you were just at?
Yeah.
Okay. And you said that you want to select the proper one according to whatever you're working with. You said if you're doing a legend versus doing whatever. Just name a couple other applications of different, like you use the legend, the annotation.
So if you wanted to do it maybe the cleanest and most correct way, you'd probably want to do text styles that are, so this is like OH200 and we have a font style for that. But let's say you wanted to do one and you would have like these call outs for the titles of your property, your driveway, your existing material. So you would say something like that, like labels, call it labels. And so it'd be larger than the other text.
Right.
A lot of times people do street names like huge. You've seen that on plans. So that would be its own font style.
Its own font style.
Yeah. And then the smaller text would probably be a different size. So it's probably still the same font, but if you want to make it a smaller size, you could do that here and it started it for you. Or you can just, when you're creating the text, make it smaller. So lots of different ways to do it.
But the whole purpose of having those different styles to choose from is to have different text and different size and whatever.
Yeah, it gives you the opportunity to do that. And then if you do make it annotative, which means it does the sizing for you, then that is very helpful.
So it'd be more efficient to, once you select one, to try to write everything you need in that type and then instead of bouncing all over the place.
Exactly. Yeah, it would be much more effective to just go ahead and label, you know, the house, the garage, the driveway, all of those things before.
So when you create that box and you start writing it, and you do single layer, then one line, then you just hit dtext and type. Or if you want to do multiple, then you hit in-text for multiple.
Right. Yeah. And so then that's also right up here. So you could do multi-line or single line.
So that programming and styles, that does both single line and multi-line text, right?
Yes, it does. So whichever one is current, you choose what kind you want of that font style. Okay, so yeah, you just continue along and show as much information as you can and reference that back to a construction legend chart. If you can't get it onto the chart, you can do call outs. So I would probably do the steps and then give them a symbol and the call out here. But and you can do notations for things that you would detail. So even if we were not drawing details, you could do that here. So this is a planter pot. So then I would go to detail number 4 on sheet L2, or whatever one that references it, and show the pot that I've chosen. And that might just be a photo from the manufacturer if it's a manufactured pot. Or I would dimension the size and shape so they could find a pot that fits those requirements. So a couple of different ways to do that.
What do you use for pots? Candy pottery or?
Not anymore. I used to. I go online a lot. I've had Wayfair deliver some. That's pretty helpful. Then there's, the good ones. There's Hat and Stone. There's, Restoration Hardware has a good line. It just kind of depends on the client and what their budget is.
Okay.
So I tend to start with Restoration Hardware because I like what they have, but it's expensive. So, okay, so those are the call outs for what you want to do. If you wanted to add your site furnishings, this is where you would do it also. So you could just take this. I'm doing Control C. And then copying down, Control V, and site furnishings.
How do you open that box?
It was already there, so I double clicked on it. So see how it's highlighted?
Yeah.
And double click, and now it's letting me edit it. Kind of like you would in a Word document. Looks like something happened here. So you can adjust this size. It looks like I've added a return in there somehow. There we go. Now, if you want to tally the quantities of your area that you're using, this is a really helpful thing, and you're going to need this for the construction estimate. So if you do put it on this plan, you will have saved yourself a step. But you can use a command called, in your utilities, you can do measure. I'm trying to see if I can see this in here somewhere. I don't see a pull down for it. So you can do, measure is different. So we're going to do area, and this is going to tell us this amount of space. So see how I highlighted around that and hit enter? Yeah. At the bottom of the screen here, it tells me that that was 29.7 square feet.
Can you do that again?
Yeah, so AR for area. Oops. I'm just going to type in area. Now I'm clicking at all the corners, and I'm not doing the full steps because I'm going to get those a separate area. And then hit enter, and it briefly showed them at my crosshairs, but down at the bottom of the screen, you can expand that too, and it says it's 29.7 square feet. That gives you the quantity. You can also, if you've hatched something, you can click on it and right click. Oops. And, okay, that's not what I wanted. So you can do a list. So LI for list. Select the object, hit enter. And it tells you down here the properties of that hatch that you created. So it tells you the layer it's on, where it is, the hatch pattern you used, the hatch scale, and the area. So it's 5,800 square inches or 40 square feet. And it's different because it also included the steps.
You match properties. It's basically matching all those details.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so this is a really helpful thing to do to expand and contract this command line at the bottom because this is what AutoCAD's thinking. So you can always look there, and if you feel confused or stressed, like why is it not working or why does it keep asking me the same question, a lot of times it's because you don't see what's going on at the bottom of the screen where it's asking you to do something.
If you push Control 0, it gets rid of the command thing.
So yeah, I don't recommend that. That's the one thing that still stumps me all the time is when the ribbons get messed up.
Oh, that's terrible.
Ribbons?
Yeah, so these, I'll show you. So you can cycle through them. So see how they change?
Oh, wait.
So you see the top of my screen? So now we have what you're accustomed to seeing, right?
Yeah.
But maybe I want more screen so I can make it more abbreviated.
If you command clean screen, everything goes blank. And then you can hit it again.
You can also do, in AutoCAD, you can do a regen. So if you type in RE for regen, that helps, especially if you have a hatch that kind of looks weird and you know that it's actually in the right place, but it looks maybe pixelated or lines are kind of all over the place. If you regenerate the drawing, the visual component of the computer rethinks it and redraws.
Did you say region?
Regen. So it's like regenerate. R-E.
Oh, R-E-G-N?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not regen. Yeah, it is helpful, especially if something looks really wacky to you. So there's that, and then you would take this into paper space and modify paper space so you have your legend that's really clean, your callouts really clean, and your dimensions, and then you would change the title of this to your construction.
How do you make it black and white?
It is previewing with the paper. Hang on. Let's see. So I'm going into the page setup manager, and I'm going to see if there's something in there that's set. I think it might be here. Display the plot styles. Let me see if I have. I have the same problem. Is that